Fox News Alert, it is decision day today for Wisconsin. Folks in the Badger State head to the polls, and you can see them doing just that this morning as they start their day. We're now learning more about exactly how a President Trump, if that were to become reality, would actually try to force Mexico to pay for a border wall. Many have said that's just impossible. It would never work. He laid out his plan in a two-page memo that he sent to the Washington Post. He says that he would threaten to cut off the flow of billions of dollars in payments sent home by Mexican immigrants.
With Mexico, we will build a wall. And people, the politicians are saying, how can you possibly get them to pay? Let me tell you something, folks. When you, and we have some good business people in this audience, when you have a $58 billion deficit and you have a $10 billion wall, it's real easy. And that's on a yearly basis, the 58. It's really easy. And they don't understand it. They said, but how do you get them to pay? I said, it's so easy. And you understand. Just rely on me, okay? Rely. So easy.
Joining us now, Jeff DeWitt, Arizona State Treasurer and Trump campaign chairman in the Grand Canyon State. Jeff, welcome back to the program. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Martha. Thank you.
So he started to lay out, I think one of the interesting shifts that we've seen in the Trump campaign over the last week to 10 days is that he's trying to sort of disclose some of his actual policy ideas in a way that he's been pressed to do for some time. So how exactly would this plan to get Mexico to pay for the wall work?
Well, as you heard in the previous clip, $24 billion a year is sent to Mexico from the United States. It's either people, a lot of it is people here sending money back home to their families. It actually last year in 2015 overtook oil as a revenue source for Mexico for the first time in history. So in terms of telling Mexico that they would now enforce the provisions of the Patriot Act, which gives power to the executive branch to enforce that banks need to know their customer, and right now that's not being enforced to Mexico. The banks are not having to know their customer in order to send these wire transfers. But giving the executive branch the authority to do that, which already is there, and enforcing that, if Mexico does not pay the money, it obviously shows that it can be done. And I think that's what people have been saying for a long time. Oh, this won't happen. It can't happen. And what you've seen is a policy now that's outlined that says, yeah, this can happen. And so the argument's going to shift very quickly to should this happen, because now it's proven that it can happen. And I think we'll see polling firms now go out and find out if the American public wants this to happen. Right. And if it comes back that the American public agrees that this should happen, then I give it 2 weeks tops before Ted Cruz is running commercials pretending that he thought of it.
Well, we'll see about that part. Let's put up on the screen some of the ideas of how he would get Mexico to pay for the wall. And we've heard the former president, Vicente Fox's reaction to that. He says there's no way, and he used some creative terminology to say that that will never happen. But the Trump proposal includes increased trade tariffs, cancellation of visas, higher fees for border crossing cards to come back and forth. Now, you've laid out an interesting principle as part of what he talked about in terms of how you could make that happen under the Patriot Act, that in order to transfer funds, the banks need to know who they're dealing with, and if those people are illegals, you believe that through his executive privilege or through what measure, what mechanism could he make that happen?
Yeah, in the Patriot Act, it already spells out. It gives the power to the executive branch to define the enforcement of that. So it's already there. And keep in mind that proposal you saw, it isn't saying that they would do all four of those things. It's just saying here are actually 4 ways it can be done. Right. Some are better than others. And so it wouldn't be all of those things.
And it also
but when you go out to
sorry, but it also says, Jeff, that once the wall was paid for, that the program would go back to the way it was?
Yeah, it's I mean, the point of this memo is to say this is how you'd pay for the wall. And when you go to a place like Wisconsin, especially, where so many of their manufacturing jobs have been sent to Mexico and sent overseas for cheaper foreign labor, and you look at Mexico, pre-NAFTA, in Mexico, manufacturing was less than 20%. It is now 80% of their revenue. I'm sorry, I'm saying the numbers wrong, but manufacturing has grown in Mexico quite a bit since NAFTA to levels that are unheard of before, and a lot of that's come at the expense of places like Wisconsin. And so we go there and you show this proposal, and I think it resonates well with the workers that have been displaced there.
What about the trade implications? Mexico is obviously a huge trade partner, and they've said that they would never accede to this plan.
Well, I don't know if they've responded to this exact memo yet. I'd be curious to see what they say to it. You know, nobody wants to start a trade war with Mexico, and this wouldn't. That's the nice thing is people have come out and said, you know, if he were to do a tariff, there could be a trade war, and that could hurt the economy here and there. And this shows there are ways to do it without doing any tariffs, actually. There are ways to do it without doing anything like that. And, you know, if you go back many years, you go back many decades, there was a time back in 1938 that Mexico nationalized all the American oil interests down in Mexico. And so, you know, things like this are not unheard of between the two countries. And basically, American workers are looking for a president that's going to put America first. And Donald Trump is the only presidential candidate that's saying he's going to do that.
All right. The two-page memo laying out how he would do it, released yesterday. Thank you very much, Jeff. Good to see you again.
Thanks, Martha.